name's Brittany and I'm part owner of Glass Slipper Princess Parties, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit today about how I made my mermaid tail. So to make your tail, you're going to need some equipment. So the first thing that you will need is tracing paper. You're also going to need a measuring tape to measure yourself. You're going to need some scrap fabric. So I just use this one. Any scrap fabric that you have lying around will work. Then you're going to need neoprene. So I ordered this neoprene online. I got it from the US. I think I ordered a whole roll. It was cheaper that way. It is about 2.5 millimeters thick, and I just got the black one. Then you're gonna need some fabric to go over top of it. So I chose sequins because mine was an Ariel inspired tail and I wanted it to be sparkly. So I chose this one because it looks like scales, so I liked that about it. And you're going to need some elastic for the waistband. So I used thinner elastic in the front and thicker elastic for the back. And then the last thing that you'll need is a leather awl. So I used this leather awl to sew the mono fin, which is made of silicone, onto the tail portion of the fin, because you'll have to hand sew it because it's really thick. So to create my tail, I was inspired by the designer Barbie dolls from Disney. Part one is the pattern making process. So to make the pattern, I used tracing paper and I used the scrap fabric. So the first thing I did was measure my body, and I measured from my waist to my feet probably every 6 inches. So you need to make sure that you measure every 6 inches actually, otherwise you're not going to get the right shape on your pattern pieces. And then you're measuring the width of your body and cutting it in half. So I made little points on my pattern fabric, so this fabric. So I made points on the scrap fabric, and then I connected the dots to make the shape. Once I had the shape, I cut out the pattern pieces and I sewed them together on the machine, and I tried it on and made sure that it all fit. So it has to be really tight, because if it's not tight enough, then it's not going to stay on when you're swimming. Part two is cutting out the fabric. So once you have your pattern pieces made, I traced them onto tracing paper. And I did that so that you can pin it easily onto the fabric and you can see through. Once I had it all pinned on, I cut it out of the neoprene and I cut it out of the sequins. Once I had the two pieces cut out, then I put them together and I serged them on my serger, and then I stitched them together down the sides. But I left the top open and the bottom open, and probably halfway up one side for the zipper on the side of the tail. Part three is the waistband. So for the waistband, I cut sections of organza and I put stiff tulle on the inside so that it would stand up. And basically what I did was I folded it over and I sewed it together, and then I gathered it on the sewing machine and I attached it to the top of the tail. So when I attached it to the tail, I put it in between the layers and I sewed it onto the neoprene, not the sequins. And that is just so that you don't get a bunch of holes in the sequins on the good side of the tail. Once I did that, I realized that the waistband was too big and it was going to come off when I was swimming, so I added elastic, and on the back I put elastic in between the layers, which is the best way because you need to stitch it on the top and the bottom to the neoprene, and if you have too many stitches on the sequins you can see them. So I did that on the back, but on the front I wasn't able to sew it in between, so I just put it on the inside and I sewed through the sequins. Also, the reason why it's easier to do or put it in between the layers is because it's hard to sew through neoprene, elastic, and sequins. Your machine won't like it, so it's better to just have it through one of the layers. So that's what I did for the waistband. For part 4, it's the zippers. So I put the zippers into the tail. It's not the easiest thing to do. You have to make sure that you have the zippers pinned onto the tail really well, and then just that you're careful when you're sewing them. But it might take a couple of tries before you get it right, or your needles might want to break on you. So just make sure you have heavy-duty needles. Part 5 is attaching the tail to the fluke. So when I went to do that, I thought I might be able to use aqua glue, but the aqua glue did not work. It didn't want to stick or bond to the silicone. When I ordered the silicone fluke, the woman that made it for me put power mesh in it so that I could sew it onto the bottom of the tail and it wouldn't rip. So I used a leather awl to sew it. That was the best thing that I could find, and I used really thick thread, and basically you have to hand stitch it yourself and reach through and pull the thread through. So you probably have to look up another YouTube video for that, but that's all that I did. I looked it up on YouTube and it worked really well. I had to repair it one time, but other than that, it stayed on really well. So once I finished creating my tail, I got the opportunity to wear it. I found it was great in the water. I didn't have any issues swimming in it. It was really comfortable. The only thing I found uncomfortable was when I had to sit in it I sat in it for 4 hours though, which was a long time. If you're sitting in it for an hour, you'll be fine if the sequins are sharp. So if you don't use sequins, then you won't have that problem. Other than that, if I could do it again, I would put handles on the inside so it's easier to get into, because you're sandwiching your body into the tail. It's hard to just shimmy into it, and it's really, really tight. So I'd make handles out of neoprene and I'd put them probably about halfway down just so that I could pull it on. Other than that, I haven't had any issues with it. I've used it probably 2 or 3 times, so I don't know durability wise how it's going to hold up, but so far it's been really great. And if there's anything wrong with it, because you make it yourself, it's fairly easy to fix. Thank you so much for watching, and good luck with your own mermaid tails. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I hope you found it helpful. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them in the section below and I'll try to get to them and help you make your own mermaid tails.